excited, really excited to share some of what we've got to share with you today. So the first thing is I last month at the Chinook Wind Town Hall, it happened to fall on Anti-Bullying Day, and we invited Tony to offer some leadership there. And he brought to that meeting a couple of resources that were just so fabulous. I really wanted them to be shared in both regions. So I've asked Tony to spend some time with us this morning or this afternoon in a bit of an opening worship. And so we'll start with worship, which will include our land acknowledgement, and then we'll move on to the next agenda. So over to you, Tony.
Thank you so much. Very appreciative of the opportunity to speak to the Pacific Mountain people and share in this time. This time, particularly around Lent and our Lenten journey. We're well into our Lenten journey in many ways, and some of the learnings and some of the sharing that we have done during this time is all to bring us into a sense of understanding and relationship, the atonement that follows through from our actions into reconciliation. And so we begin with lighting of an orange candle in remembrance of the children of the residential school system who were lost. We have a lighting of our smudge as we begin. I'm just going to share screen here. And so take time today to think about our time of Lent as a time of vision and ceremony. We will begin with an offering of smudge and prayer as we open ourselves to this time. Let us pray. Creator God, we know that during this time it's difficult for many to see the light, to see the times that we have been through, to find a basis and a hope that will guide us into our new ministries, into our new presence in the church, and into our future. We take time today to remember where we have been in some of our calling as a people of God and as the followers of Christ, to understand our place in creation. Jesus Christ, Jagawaka, Wahuguhorichin, Narizi, Nariga Chabichin, Nagahaz, Naguachethneaichia, Shinksizio, Jesus Christ. Amen. So we burn the smudge in remembrance of our ancestors and their traditional way of offering worship, of speaking to God through the smudge. The smoke from the smudge carries our prayers to the Creator, part of a tradition that our elders do every morning in observance of their teachings and of our faith in the Creator to guide us, especially on difficult times. We think about that as we enter into our land acknowledgement. And this is the video that I played during the Pink Shirt Day. So I'm going to play that right now. And it talks a bit about perspective on the land acknowledgement.
What I've learned from my elders is that when we do acknowledgement of the land, it's not about acknowledging whose land it belongs to, because that indigenous worldview, we never owned the land. We're simply caretakers of it for future generations. And what I've been taught from my elders is that when we do that acknowledgement of the land, it's much more than just the territory. It's about relationships. It's about our relationships with people that share the land. It's our relationships with Mother Earth. It's our relationships with the four-legged, the finned, the feathered, the crawlers, the original stewards of Mother Earth. It's that relationship that we acknowledge with the trees. It's that acknowledgement that we have with the plant life. that is part of the food chain and helps us exist. It gives us our medicines for healing, gives us food for nutrients, it gives us our medicines for ceremonies. We acknowledge water. Water is sacred, water is life. And what we're told is that when we acknowledge that water, that we always have to acknowledge the carriers of those teachings, which are the woman. So we do that in the same voice. We also acknowledge the infinite wisdom of the grandfathers. Then we take that to the next level, is which acknowledging that relationship that we have with father-son, or in some nations, brother-son. We acknowledge that relationship that we have with Nokomis, Grandma Moon, and how she cleanses Mother Earth. We acknowledge that relationship that we have with our distant relations, the star people. So when we talk about acknowledging the land, it's so much more so than just acknowledging what nation was on that. As we know through all throughout the history of Turtle Island, is that Indigenous people were, for the most part, nomadic people. They shifted. They would move from season to season. It just so happens that Sheridan sits on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit, which I'm very proud to always share and educate with people. But in the same breath, I also acknowledge that many, many other nations have walked this territory, and that their ancestors are still here amongst us.
So part of the teaching that we have around land acknowledgement is a centering around not only where we are in the land, but our relationships within that land. So here for land acknowledgement today, we gather in many places in British Columbia on unceded lands, in contested areas, by lands contested by our forebears, lands that have seen relocation and resettlement that broke the stewardship of the people, their responsibilities to the land. We reside in lands that have seen forced hardship and injustice, assimilation and penalty. From these injustices, we have benefited. From these injustices, we have maintained the injustice. May we seek vision at this time to restore connection for the people, that the earth may be healed. The connections to the land are very important for those who are stewards within that land, and the responsibilities they carry through prayer and ceremony to connect to that land and to offer its healing and time of itself to be in relationship. For our scripture reading today, to take from Mark, the connection to our Lenten time. And so this in the First Nation version is called His Vision Quest. Right then and there, the Spirit drove Creator sets free Jesus into the desert wilderness. For 40 days and nights, he remained there, surrounded by wild animals, being tested by accuser Satan, the ancient trickster snake. Spirit messengers also came to give him strength and comfort. In this connection to that we have made continuously since the 1700s, and some of the earliest missionaries and some of the earliest trained people. We think back to the 1800s, where James Evans and others were connecting the story of Christ going into the desert with the vision quest, and with the affirmation of identity and responsibility coming out of there into his ministry, coming out of there into his purpose, and playing through the passion play, the responsibilities of that, to follow through and to fulfill that life quest. And so we remember that in relation to our traditional ways, which are many within the Indigenous communities around the world, that we have a form of vision quest, a form of understanding not just ourselves and who we are, but who we are in relation to one another, what that calls us to be in our community circles, and what that means for our purpose in the future, how we connect to that purpose, and how we find meaning by our action and by our teachings, what we have been granted. Oftentimes, after a vision quest, a person would receive a name for their movement going forward to show that they have changed, and that name would be then adopted by the community, would be let known by the mentor or the medicine person who acknowledges it, and that the trust and understanding of the people is that they would respect that name, they would respect that new naming for this person and the new path forward for them. So as we move into that type of world, we are called to do many things that are needed by the community, very much like our church and very much like our future endeavors, that we come out of reconciliation, made in purpose, made in trial and transfiguration, that we might learn to be different in this world, different to one another, and different for our path forward. We see as we step into this time a lot of anxiety and a lot of violence around the world, a lot of people needing resettlement, refugees, and others that need our help. And so as we live in a place of peace, a place of interconnection with the lands, we must reconcile to those lands and to the people in order to create that hospitable world that we are needing for all others, so that we may be an example and may teach that out into the world. For this final portion, we have here the Lord's Prayer, which is sung in Hebrew, and one of the sharings that I offered during their anti-bullying Pink Shirt Day event. This is one way of reconciling these two beliefs, these two understandings, with language and with perspective.
שבשמיים יתקדש שמך, תבוא מלכותך, יעשה רצונך כבשמיים כן בארץ. את לחם חוקנו תן לנו היום, וסלח לנו על חטאינו, כפי שסולחים גם אנחנו לחוטאים לנו. אבינו שבשמיים יתקדש שמך, תבוא מלכותך, יעשה רצונך כבשמיים כן בארץ. את לחם חוקנו תן לנו היום, וסלח לנו על חטאינו, כפי שסולחים גם אנחנו לחוטאים לנו. ואל תביאנו לידי ניסיון, כי אם חלצנו מן הרע. כי לך הממלכה והקרבה והתפארת לעולמי עולמים. הממלכה והגבורה והתפארת לעולמי עולמים, אמן.
So I thank you for that time to share, and I'll turn it back over to the Trina and others, and with the apologies for taking so long. Thank you.
Was well worth it. Thank you, Tony, and really, really appreciate your leadership in this and being willing to come over. So thanks. Tony did share the links with me, and I've put those in the chat that you'll be able to access the two resources that he shared. So again, thank you, Tony. So moving on, as you know, one of the region's priorities is in the area of First Third ministry. And so there's lots of really exciting things happening in all areas of the region's ministry, First Third and others. But today we wanted to spend a little bit of time sharing with you about some of the work that we're doing in campus ministries. We're one of the, or probably the only region across the country who's investing in campus ministries, and we've that's been acknowledged by the national church that they really think that that's a wise thing we're doing, and that they appreciate that. And so great to have the opportunity to share some of the work that's happening with some of our fabulous campus ministers. So Erin Miller and Kendra Mitchell Foster are going to offer a bit of leadership for the next few minutes.
So I think that that's me. Erin and I discussed beforehand that I would get to go first. And Pamela also, Pamela has suggested that perhaps we would like to share a few pictures. So before I get started, I just want to thank Tony so much for that opening worship. And I want to acknowledge that I am coming to you from unceded Clately Tenay territory, which is currently known as Prince George, BC. And all of the ministry that we do here in campus ministry at the University of Northern BC and a little bit now at the College of New Caledonia is done moving always toward walking a path of right relations and trying to reestablish relationships with the land. So I'm going to share a screen with you all, and hopefully I'll find the right one and not give away too many things. So let's just see here. Can everyone see that?
What we're seeing is yeah, there we go.
Okay, great. Sorry, my computer is a little bit slow today. So my name is Kendra Mitchell Foster, and I am the campus minister for Prince George on the campus of the University of Northern British Columbia. And I've been there a little over 2 years. And no, I've been there a little bit longer, actually. I did a practicum there before I was actually hired on by the region. So I've been at the Interfaith Spiritual Care Center there on campus for nearly 4 years, but working there as the campus minister for 2 years. And I just wanted to walk through a little bit of what the academic year sort of looks like as a campus minister. So I'm beginning here with what happens in September. Of course, August, there's usually a little bit of a lull. And then September, everything comes back in full force because everybody is back in full force. And so what you're seeing here are some images from our orientation day and our welcome back day. And you can see here is myself with another campus minister welcoming people back. And we always have something called a stress buster. And it's part of our mental health ministry, mental and spiritual health ministry. You can see there are little bags here with treats in them and motivational sayings. They're really cute. But what you don't see is that when you flip those cards over, there's mental health information, there's spiritual health information, there's contact numbers for myself, for other chaplains on campus, and information that directs people to our website for different functions and to the health and wellness on campus. The two lovely human beings that you see on this side, one is a really great friend. He's part of the Model UN there, and we collaborate really well. And the other, this was Aman Hingora. He is one of the community connectors that works with me as a way to help connect better with the campus community, but also with the wider community in Prince George, connecting with congregations, with nonprofit groups, and with social justice groups in town and across the north. And the next slide that I have is one of my favorite ministries that we have running. We have a weekly and a monthly encouragement for people to find God outside. We find that in campus scenarios, there are people who are really beholden to deadlines, really beholden to achievement and performance and output. And so part of our ministry is to remind people that they are whole, that they are good, that they are beloved, and that they are a part of a larger cosmos that was lovingly created and continues to be lovingly held together by our God. So I have a Wild Church, a UNBC chapter of Wild Church, and we have a worship each month. And you'll notice a few different a few different pictures. There's this beautiful one with the flowers, and we've got these great botanical gardens at the university. So actually quite a few people show up to these ones. And then you'll see this one with the little lamp in the corner. And this is our winter morning solstice one. And it's usually just me and maybe one other person because it's -30. But we still do it each month as part of holding that space for people to find God within creation. And I just included a couple of our little flyers, usually for each Wild Church. I have small flyers that I hand out. We have from our Orange Shirt Day worship, and then we have one from our Gratitude worship in the winter. And I don't want to forget to mention forest bathing. UNBC is sort of out and away from the rest of the town. It's up on a hill, which is covered in beautiful forests. So some things are really difficult to access, like grocery stores, and isolation is a factor on campus, but being surrounded in nature makes accessing the forests and the fresh air and everything a lot easier. So we encourage people every Tuesday mornings at 9 to come for a walk with us, to have spirit-filled conversation. Lots of people will check in with me just for pastoral care at this time. And our two biggest sort of ministries of welcome, we have people who are being welcomed into the university, into these new phases of their lives, but who are also being welcomed into the nature that surrounds the university, welcomed back to themselves, as we're sort of trying to pull them back into this place of recognizing that they too have spirits as well as textbooks and brains. One of the momentous weeks that we organize as Campus United on UNBC campus is a spiritual care week. And so we try to showcase all of the different ministries that are available, the different resources that are available. And we have interfaith partners who also showcase what's available. And one of my favorite things, I'm just going to play this video. I don't think it has any sound. One of my favorite things to offer on campus, and it's all year round because as you can see, we have a really lovely room, is labyrinth meditation. This is a way that a lot of folks who are uncomfortable coming to chapel can come and find spiritual care. A lot of folks who are not Christian come as well. And so it's a way of cultivating that interfaith faith peace building that we have on campus. We have a really vibrant and thriving interfaith community in Prince George, and we're wanting to make sure that international folks can experience that. So we have every month as well, same as Wild Church. Every month we hold an interfaith labyrinth meditation for people to come and explore and to find a little bit of quiet. And this has been one that people have consistently been returning to. And I did forget to put on this slide that we also have a weekly yoga ministry that's in partnership with the First Nations Student Center. So these are both of our centering practices that bring people of all faiths together. Oops, there goes the video again. So as I mentioned before, one of the biggest issues that people on campus are facing is food security. And especially in Prince George, students that are living on campus, it can be very difficult for them to be able to get down to a grocery store and back up with all of the food that they need. And so part of what we try to do is organize a weekly schedule for free community soup and buns meals through the Interfaith Spiritual Care Center. So we coordinate different faith groups from town, different chaplains that are volunteering on campus to each take a week so that there's always at least one free meal per week on campus. And another really popular event you can see by the smiles are our jam making workshops. So this is part of our living into walking gently with creation, honoring creation, really honoring the territory as well, and trying to bring back some of these skills, some of these ways of being that help us to consume less and to honor more. So these workshops are we always give them in partnership with the First Nations Student Center. And the community connectors that I have, they're very important during the school year, of course, but they're also very important during the summer because they help me harvest all of the fruit from the local area of Prince George. So what you see is a Saskatoon Jam event, and all of these Saskatoons are picked within the city limits of Prince George or on Clately-Tenay territory. And so we have rhubarb that we use the local congregations for, like the folks at the end of the year who have a little bit of extra rhubarb, we collect all of that. We usually have a rhubarb event, a Saskatoon event, and last year we actually also had an apple jam making event. And so we have free fruit, basically, and we always find co-sponsors to do the sugar and the jam. And everybody who comes to one of these workshops gets a recipe and at least one jar of jam. And if there's any food left over or sugar left over, we send it with them so that they can pass it along. And so this one, you can see my friend Kilani here has a delightful piece of bannock. The First Nations Student Center always makes us bannock so that we can enjoy the jam on the bannock. So this is a way, we usually do a jam event as part of one of our kickoff events so that we really help people know about the First Nations Center as well. This is one of our most popular ministries, and we do have food ministries throughout the year in partnership with the food services there.
Kendra,
yeah.
I'm just aware we need Aaron to have a minute, and we've got Jeffrey lined up. So
okay,
if we can, yeah.
I'll be so fast. So
okay.
the other ministries we have are hiking ministry. We have a peace and justice ministry that's really getting going now. And we have our spring ministries of skiing outside and Lenten exercise of 40 days of engagement on anti-racism for Lent, asking people to give up racism for Lent. So it's a little bit of tongue in cheek as part of our justice. But that's sort of where we're at with our ministries. And a big part of what I wanted to say today is that these ministries and the community connectors are really important in helping connect new students. Many people are new to the country as well as new to the area. And we've had a number of folks stay with us throughout the course of their tenure at the university, just because they were introduced to us in the beginning and we were the first people to show them the university and help them build community. So that's our most important ministry, is building community. Sorry, Erin, I didn't even know how much time we had. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you, Kendra. That's fabulous. And Aaron.
Yeah, thanks, Kendra. It's one of the things of working with Campus United is getting to see the different flavors of ministry that are happening across the region. Each campus is slightly different, sometimes because of community connectors we have, sometimes because of the campus minister who's working there, sometimes because of the nature of the space. I'm at the University of British Columbia in the beautiful traditional ancestral Mencia territory of the Musqueam people. And I'll just say kind of two things that I think are on my mind today. One is that at least at UBC, this isn't the same everywhere, but at UBC, United Church Campus Ministry is the only active and formally affirming Christian ministry on campus. I'm one of about at least a dozen, maybe 15 formally recognized Christian chaplains on campus. And although not all of them are hostile, we are the only one that is absolutely affirming and welcoming of people in all their wonder and glory. So I think that's really important. And it's especially important to students who are deconstructing their faith because of issues around inclusion and justice. And so I think it's just, that's one of the things that we really try to create a space where people can come as their full selves and have an experience of the church that they may not get somewhere else. We're showing the 1946 film. If you've seen it, it's working up if you haven't seen it. But we're showing that next Monday, and really looking forward to that. As Kendra said, food and loneliness, community, all these things are really important. I'll be at the AGM. I'd love to tell you all the wild and wonderful things we're doing here at UBC, but I did want to just finish where Kendra finished as well, is the Community Connector program. This has been such a gift. I've worked alongside campus ministers at UBC since I got here 8 years ago, and one of the challenges with campus ministry is that it is there's constant turnover just by the nature of doing ministry on the campus. And so having the community connectors means you begin with a core, and they also provide sources of action that we don't necessarily have. They ensure that there's someone other than just the campus minister hanging out there when people show up to an event. They provide leadership that's really helpful and insightful. They have ear to the ground in a way that is integral to how we serve students. And I think it really ties to the goal and desire of the to form young people for leadership in a variety of capacities. And so as if your church is looking for ways to support young people, I would really highly encourage you to go to campusunited.ca, see what we're doing. And if you wanted to be a partner with us, the Community Connector program is not cheap, but it is really, really important and super valuable. And it's a way that we can make these ministries a region-wide ministry and not just a sort of local expression. So I would love to talk to you at the AGM. Be there. I assume we'll have a table. Stop by. I'd love to tell you more. Thanks.
Thanks, Aaron and Kendra. Yeah, there's so much we could share and so much excitement about that, but that just gives you a bit of a flavor. And as we've mentioned, the Campus Connector program is pretty much exclusively funded through grants. So if congregations want to support something beyond themselves, it's a great project to support. And just a shout out to Aaron, who's just published a book. If you're interested, I put a link in the chat. So great job, Aaron. And the Camp Spirit registration, which is also part of the third ministry, is open. So just wanted to make sure folks know about that. And you can see all that on the First Third website or the Campus United website. So now we're going to talk. We talked about spiritual care of young folks and young adults as they're in university, but we also spend a lot of time thinking about spiritual care and pastoral care in our own context in the community of faith. Jeffrey Simmons is on staff in Chinook Winds region, and he's giving lots of thought to that. And he's retiring. So although we know he's going to be around and we're going to be able to have some opportunities to learn with Jeffrey in the future, it just seemed like before he got away from us, we should spend some time with him here in the Pacific Mountain region. So Jeffrey, thanks again for being here with us today, and over to you. And the rest of the time is yours. When we're done, sometimes folks have to leave if we're right at the 2 deadline and we're a little bit overhead, but if you want to go over, you can, and the folks who can stay, and those who have to leave, have to leave. So we'll leave it in your capable hands.
Thank you so much, Trina. It's wonderful to be visiting. It feels like coming home. I grew up on the Lower Mainland, and I got to tell you, right about this time of year in Calgary, forsythia, snowdrops, crocuses, all those beautiful flowers. And I did like hearing our friend from Kendra from Prince George. So yes, you know what cold is as well. So good for you. And I'm an old teacher in 2 ways, Trina, so I'll end right at 2. I don't want to keep everybody up. I do want to say that I prepared a couple of different resources that I shared with Mauricio. So I prepared some a Word file. I guess it's in PDF, and also a PowerPoint that is in PDF. So if you're at all interested in these resources, you can contact Mauricio, or he can put them right into the chat if he likes. And you can also contact me directly. So what I'd like to do is, I'll share a PowerPoint with you in just a moment, but I wanted to tell you about one of my preoccupations really in the last, the last part of my ministry. And it ties in quite beautifully with what both Kendra and Aaron were talking about in terms of the community connectors, because I've been thinking about the way that we develop a practice that I've been calling care connecting. It is something that is got the same, I think, underlying principle, which is that it bridges congregational or faith life with a larger context. So I think that is, to me, that provides a bridge to what both of you were talking about. And I am very excited. I wish I'd been around you when you were when I was in university. But anyway, I'm glad for your students. So I'd like to share now, if I could. Yes, I can. I think. Yeah, I'll share this PowerPoint. Now, I called this, hold on a second, I called this rural, but it certainly doesn't need to be rural. It's partly because we had a rural ministry conference here in the fall, and so I was thinking that would be part of what we were up to. But what I've called it then is sharing the joy, building care and connect teams to support, let's just call it congregational ministry. And I picked that title quite deliberately because I think a lot of us think about congregational work as work. And we think of pastoral care as being, oh my, this is the thing that I wish I could do more of, but it's, it gets, everything else gets in the way. So I want to sort of pose the whole time that we have together as joy, and think about it as a way of sharing God's love for each other and the world. So that's that's the way I'm framing it for us today. And I too am speaking to you from traditional territories. In my case, Chinook Winds is located on a wide expanse, Treaty 4, Treaty 6, and Treaty 7, and as well as Métis Nation, Region 3, District 5. And I hold up particularly today the tradition of eldership in Indigenous teachings, the respect for the wisdom of elders, and I want to, respect that as we think about how we can bring that to bear in spiritual care. So what's in a name? Well, we've got pastoral care, we've got spiritual care, and we've got care and connection teams. And I've obviously located those in a hierarchy. And pastoral care is something that obviously we're going to continue to use that term. But when we look at lay-led organizations or lay-led groups, some find it very minister focused, and they can't really get a sense of ownership for this. And they say, well, that's what the minister does. That's not what I do. And what I'm very interested in is the idea of equipping the saints, and the idea that we are trying to move people into a sense of ownership for caring for one another. So this general term we find, I think, is more frequent. If we had more time, we'd discuss this in our, in smaller groups to talk about whether spiritual care is a term that you feel more comfortable with. I do say, though, that, that there are some wonderful books and resources out there. I found this one particularly valuable, Lynn Babb, Nurturing Hope, Christian Pastoral Care in the 21st Century. She uses the traditional term, but I love what she writes here. And I don't want to read it out to you because you've got it on the screen there, but I think I just go to this last sentence here. Hold on a second. I skipped ahead. Paying attention to what God has already set in motion shifts the perspective of the carer from a problem-centered approach to a curious, attentive, and mindful expectation that because of the miracle of God's incarnation in Jesus Christ, God is with us here and now. So this is really, if I have anything I really want to share with you is my perspective that I think that spiritual care needs to be motivated by curiosity and respect rather than by any connotation of problem solving. So there's the spiritual care moniker, more inclusive. Listening, not fixing, which I think is something that many of us have been taught but still continue to learn. And then the goal is to provide what I love this phrase, ministry of presence, to be that non-anxious presence, simply aware and in the place with the person. So I've been using this term care and connection teams lately. And in fact, some churches are using this term now, and they're actually, developing this practice of care connectors. They describe themselves by that noun. The ministry of presence. So what I like about it is it fosters sharing. Now it needs to be, promoted somewhat carefully when we're advertising it, just to be sure that it's it's focused on discussion rather than solving, and also that it's not service or mission work. Those have important places, but this is different. This is a ministry of listening and paying attention. So why form a care and connect team? Well, I think there's theological reasons. There's to share in God's love, to model patience, non-judgment, compassion, and also to help clergy. And ministers are finding it's very draining to be asked to be the only person who's responsible for pastoral care. That's not always the case, but it often seems to sort of defer to the clergy. And my hope is that we can empower people so that they can support the minister and do a lot of this joy. I was about to call it work, wasn't I? On their own. I got 3 guiding concepts for us. And one of them is, hold on a second. I can't quite see my screen. That's what's going on. That we are embodied, composed of spirit, body, and mind. And spiritual care respects this multi-sidedness of the person. And I do like the idea of the metaphor of pilgrimage, that we are on a journey. We're invited to walk with people through all the phases of life, from birth to death, and we hope life beyond death. And then caring and connecting with others allows us to share ministry and grow spiritually. So we're not in this as a neutral participant. We're in this as a positive sharing participant. And these 2 interlocked and overarching beliefs, that what we choose to do right now matters to us and those we journey with in our faith communities, and that the Holy Spirit is with us on the journey, nudging us towards harmony, grace, healing, and wholeness, defined by wellness in its different facets. So I guess my sense of it is that the theological premise that I think of ourselves as is that we are one with God in brokenness and blessing. So we're not looking to present ourselves as anything other than this, nor are we expecting others to do that. So what is wellness? Well, wellness, what I've been quite interested in, some of you have seen this, I'm sure. A lot of universities and colleges use this kind of a wellness wheel. And what I find so interesting is that it shows us that wellness consists of at least 8 different factors. And, our little world is the spiritual world, but social, environmental, where is this now? Environmental, you know, so worry about the environment and how we live, our places of living, financial, intellectual, and you would sometimes call this vocational, but this could be a volunteer role as well, and emotional. So I think it's important that we kind of recognize that ourselves at the center of this wellness wheel are quite complex and multi-sided beings. I do have a scriptural grounding, and to me, we haven't really got here yet. This is the reading we read on Pentecost, but I love this notion of the vision of sharing that we find in Acts 2, and this is what's sort of feeding my soul, is that, you know, everyone filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles, but it's everybody, it's all of the believers. So this is what we can do with these Care and Connect teams, I think, is to create this kind of Actian, I haven't seen that as an adjective, but this ACT-inspired vision. And the denominational perspectives, I don't want to read this to you, but, you know, I just find so much inspiration in this, thinking of these reminders from the New Creed. Not alone, we live in God's world. All of these phrases we've read out and heard read in memorial services, and the power of these as reminders of our shared journey and a belief that God is with us. And of course, we got the strategic plan as well. And I like the idea that creating these care connecting teams is kind of connected with the strategic plan of bold, diverse, bold, connected, evolving, all these things, courageous, hope-filled communities. So that's what I see us as doing. So what would we do with these Care Connect teams? Who, what, where, when, and why? Well, what is obvious? We want to create groups of individuals and teams where we practice these things. I want to just focus on that second one because I love it so much. And I think it's really key that we recognize that in discussion, there comes a moment when somebody shares something about themselves, and there's that powerful invitation to recognize the sacredness. I think of it as Exodus 3:5, take off your sandals, the ground on which you stand is holy ground. Each person's story is holy. Each person's story has that sacred quality to it. And we're called to slow down and pay attention when they start to share that story, not to fix them, not to judge them. And if they go beyond where we're comfortable, we need to refer to professionals, whether it's clergy. I mean, you know, I'm talking about a lay-led team here, or to specialist counselors. And then this is really key as well, knowing how to replenish one's own energies. Because I think that we can't, you know, if you think about Jesus and the woman at the well, you need water that's not going to dissipate, not water that's not going to disappear. So when and where, well, I guess I think anywhere, anytime. And my hope, though, is that people start small, so with a coffee time discussion, and that they keep the tone light, but they establish confidentiality as a practice. Again, I mentioned it's not missional, but then we would just create a place for listening. Now, what I find is that the ministry opportunities are just always there. Right now, I talked to a ministry colleague, and she's relatively new in a charge, and she's had 3 people approach her about marriage issues, and so, you know, relationships, we're always being told what the community needs to talk about, and we don't need to say, well, what are we talking about? They'll tell us what they want to talk about. So I love this metaphor of pilgrimage, the Care and Connect team, seeing as journeying with others along the road of life, and it's a fundamental part of our Christian heritage. And it can be a physical journey or a spiritual one, and we see new ways of seeing and experiences. Now I realize I'm moving along at a fair clip here, and I'm sorry that we don't have time to chat, but I do want to remind you that, you know, I've got these resources and happy to share them with you. But essentially what I'm trying to put forward is a model of a confident team where it is you or whoever that might be, helping one another find spiritual peace and equanimity. So who can be an effective care connector? I think, and Kendra, I think you said this quite beautifully. You talked about the loving God that is valor, that values us, and I think that is what we need to, you know, to understand and believe. And we're not looking for perfection. We're striving for presence, not for perfection at all. I do think that we want to recognize that anybody involved in any of these activities needs to think about themselves. They need to know a little bit more about themselves. And these are the 6 related dimensions of, that are connected with mental health: self-acceptance, positive relations with others, personal growth, purpose in life, the ability to control and satisfy one's needs, and self-determination or autonomy, choice. Now, I don't want to show this because actually, partly because of time, but when I showed it as a sample, I couldn't get back out of the screen. But it is a video where she basically says, Jesus doesn't want me to give up myself. Jesus wants me to find myself through self-care. Oh, it's coming. Well, all right, here we go.
I think oftentimes as women, particularly Christian women, our
Now, my friend, I'm going to stop and get us out of there. Sorry about that. That's not very helpful.
Jeffrey's frozen. We'll give him a second to see if he comes back. Maybe ask him to sign out and sign back in. Well, while we're waiting for him to come back, any comments, questions, thoughts? You're a quiet group today.
Jeffrey said he would share his PowerPoint.
In the chat already, Mauricio has put a PDF of the presentation resources there, so you'll be able to download that.
Yeah, it doesn't have the PowerPoint yet, but I'll be getting that from Jeffrey right after this session. I can make them available as well.
Okay, and I think Jeffrey's back. Just getting his sound back.
Trina, I'm sorry about that. The
That's
video
okay.
just froze on me and it wasn't really helping at all. Well, I'm just going to just assume that that's not helping us. And so if I could, I'll just start again.
Yeah,
I
maybe
know
just skip the video and keep going.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll go right ahead. Yeah,
Thanks.
100%. And I'm just going to share the screen. Do you mind just sharing it one more time?
Oh, you came back in just 1 second here. Where are you, Jeffrey? Here you are. yeah, you should be able to
Okay.
do so now.
And while everybody's on the screen, I do recognize we were heading along at a fair clip there, and I'm sorry that that was the case, but um, I am excited to share this material, and I think I'll try to do it in such a way that we will move along, but I'll try not to say everything because that's not going to be really great. So I think what I'm looking for and what I'm seeking is to try to train people and encourage people to find this spiritual equanimity despite challenges lying ahead. And I like this, display consistent demeanor of serenity, resilience, and positivity in the face of life's challenges, stressors, and uncertainty, because that's what ministry is all about, isn't it? And we've got Brother Lawrence sharing deep intimacy with God that transformed his daily experience. And then not being anxious, as which I've adapted from Philippians. So, how to be a good care connector? Well, I guess my encouragement for folks would be to listen without feeling a need to fix, ground ourselves in regular spiritual practices, become aware of the sacredness of story as told through a person's life, and share the love of God through our presence. The actual PowerPoint has a few more points, but I think that is, we're about 3 minutes to 3. And I think what I would want to do is stop pretty much there and say what I hope is that that in spiritual care or in care connecting, we can start to diffuse that ministry-focused approach that I think is difficult for clergy as well as for congregants. And when we do that, we can create groups that can make a difference. So that's it for me, and I'm so pleased to see so many familiar faces, and I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to talk to those I didn't yet know. Trina, I appreciate the invitation, and I respect that our colleagues have their commitments beyond 2 o'clock.
Thank you, Jeffrey. And clearly, I was a little overzealous in the planning of our time together today, so I apologize. Packed too many things into an
How
hour,
rich it was. How rich it was. Tony's time was beautiful.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, we'll appreciate it. And this is just a taster. So while Jeffrey won't continue to be on staff, as I said, we're hoping to have him do some workshops and be present in various different ways to us, and we'll be able to share the work that he's done in the coming year. And Michelle has indicated in the chat that she will be in touch about setting up some kind of an online workshop through leadership. So you can look forward to that. In the meantime, Jeffrey, if you'll share your PowerPoint with Mauricio, we can put it in the chat here. And if any of you want it and haven't received it, just send a note to Mauricio and he'll send it off to you. So thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you, Kendra and Aaron. And Tony did have to leave, but thanks to Tony and to all of you. I really so appreciate these opportunities to gather and to connect. And I look forward to it every month. So glad to see you. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me at any time. And looking forward to hopefully seeing you in person at the next regional meeting and online again next month. Take care, everyone.